Pixelgod+SQUAD is all Pixelgod+SQUAD.
Watch on now, yo, hey. I am the kind of person who never
Think about what
coming
happens
your
when you
way.
deposit a paycheck into, just a traditional bank account.
You probably don't spend a single second worrying about it.
Right. You aren't thinking about the building's physical architecture or the thickness of the vault door or whether the bank tellers might accidentally just leave the back door wide open.
Yeah, you just trust the institution. It's totally passive.
Exactly. But when you step into the world of decentralized finance or DeFi, that blind trust it disappears completely. The stakes are unimaginably high.
And the architecture protecting your money is entirely invisible.
It is. And listen to these numbers for a second because they really set the stage for what we are digging into today. In 2024 alone, $2.6 billion was lost across 192 different hacking incidents in the crypto space.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And if we zoom out to look at the historical total, we are talking about over $35.32 billion lost to hackers in Web3.
It is just a staggering amount of capital to essentially vanish into thin air. And for a long time, the industry was moving so fast that security felt like, it was basically an afterthought.
Move fast and break things, right?
Exactly. But the collapse of FTX was the ultimate wake-up call for the entire ecosystem. It completely stripped away the illusion that big names or massive valuations somehow equaled safety.
Yeah, nobody was safe.
Right. It really underscored the absolute necessity of robust, uncompromising auditing in these environments, especially where there is no central authority to just, reverse a bad transaction.
Which brings us to the actual mission of today's deep dive. We are looking at the invisible shield that is protecting billions of dollars in Web3 right now.
The auditing and the architecture.
Exactly. We're going to unpack the underlying architecture that makes DeFi both incredibly revolutionary and uniquely dangerous. Then we'll look at the surprising economic reality of who actually pays for these security audits and why.
That part is fascinating.
It really is. And finally, we'll explore the cutting-edge AI frameworks that are stepping in to secure the code where, frankly, human auditors are just falling short.
Because the humans can't keep up.
They really can't. Because, to put it simply for you listening, DeFi is basically a self-driving bank. It runs on pure code, executing billions in trades automatically. But what happens when the self-driving code has a typo?
Someone drains the vault.
Exactly. Someone drains the vault.
And because that code is completely open source, the people trying to find those typos are highly motivated. They are incredibly well-funded, and they're searching 204/7.
It's terrifying.
It is. So if we want to understand how to audit and protect these self-driving banks, we first have to understand how they are actually built and how their architecture is rapidly evolving to outsmart those attackers.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, a perfect lens for this is looking at the evolution of major automated market makers, specifically tracing the architectural journey of a protocol called Balancer, going from its first version to its third.
So let's break down that shift, because the evolution here gives us a really clear window into the whole arms race of Web3 security.
Yeah, it's a perfect case study.
In the early days of automated market makers, you had these rigid pairs of tokens, right? You'd have a pool of Ethereum and a pool of USDC, and they just traded back and forth.
Right. Very simple.
And Balancer originally innovated by introducing multi-token pools with custom weights. It was basically an on-chain index fund where you could pool up to 8 different assets.
Which was huge for liquidity. But the real game changer for security happened when they moved to their V2 architecture.
Right, the singleton vault.
Exactly.
Yeah.
V2 introduced what they call the singleton vault. And to understand why this matters, you have to look at how DeFi originally worked.
It was super fragmented, right?
Completely fragmented. Usually, every single liquidity pool, so every pair of trading assets, was its own independent smart contract that actually held the tokens.
So if you had 1,000 different trading pairs, you literally had 1,000 different vaults holding money.
Yes, 1,000 different targets for hackers.
See, I love the concept of the singleton vault because it solves such an obvious real-world problem. It's like moving from a sprawling shopping mall where every single individual store has its own flimsy cash register.
They could easily be robbed.
Right, easily robbed by a smash and grab. Moving from that to a mall where there is one impenetrable, heavily guarded underground vault.
That's a great way to picture it.
The individual stores still exist, but they just act as cashiers. They calculate the price of the items, they tell you what the trade should be, but the actual money never sits in their local register. It's all managed managed in that central vault.
Exactly. And the technical term for this is separating the asset management from the pricing logic.
Separating the management from the logic. Got it.
By consolidating all protocol assets into one single, heavily audited smart contract, developers massively reduce the attack surface.
Because there's only one door to guard.
Right. The individual pool contracts no longer manage tokens directly. They just compute the mathematical outcomes of the swaps. So if a hacker finds a logic flaw in one obscure trading pool, they can't just drain the tokens.
Because that pool doesn't actually hold any tokens, the singleton vault does.
Exactly. Which brings us to their newest iteration, V3. This takes that centralized vault concept and pushes the efficiency to a completely new level.
This is where they brought in the transient accounting, right?
Yep.
Leveraging that Ethereum upgrade, EIP 11153.
Yes. And this is a brilliant piece of engineering that solves one of the biggest pain points for users, which is gas fees.
How everyone hates gas fees.
Absolutely. In older systems, if you wanted to execute a complex trade that routed through, say, 3 or 4 different tokens, the smart contract had to permanently write every single intermediate step to the blockchain.
And writing data to the blockchain is incredibly expensive.
So expensive.
So every time the tokens changed hands, even for a microsecond during a routing sequence, the user was basically paying a toll.
Right. What transient counting does is introduce a sort of temporary scratchpad memory.
A scratch pad.
Yeah. Instead of executing a separate token transfer on the blockchain for every single step of a complex trade, the V3 Vault uses transient storage to just track the net changes.
Oh, I see. So it just tracks the balances as the trade routes through the system.
Exactly. It holds all the math in temporary memory during the transaction, and then only settles the final net amount on the blockchain at the very end.
That is massive for the end user. I mean, it drastically reduces the cost to trade.
It does. But V3 didn't stop at just saving users money. It also introduced a way to make them more money through these things called boosted pools.
Okay, yeah, the boosted pools. The protocol basically takes 100% of the underlying capital that's sitting idle in the pool and routes it to external yield-generating protocols, like a BEV.
It completely redefines capital efficiency.
How so?
Well, in a traditional automated market maker,
Yeah.
the vast majority of the tokens just sit there waiting for someone to trade against them. They're completely unproductive.
Just dead weight.
Right. But by routing them to a COV, liquidity providers are earning their standard swap fees from the trading activity. Plus, they're earning lending yield from AVE, all at the same exact time.
Oh, wow. So it's double dipping.
Basically, yeah. The vault maintains just enough of a small liquidity buffer to execute gas-efficient swaps, while the bulk of the money is out earning interest.
But hold on, I'm looking at this V3 architecture, and I see a massive contradiction here.
Oh.
Yeah, they lock everything down in this impenetrable singleton vault to keep it secure, right?
Oh.
But then V3 introduces this framework called hooks.
Ah, yes. The hooks.
And hooks are basically external smart contracts that let developers inject infinite custom logic into how a pool operates.
That's right.
So, for example, a developer could build a hook for MEV capture maximal extractable value to basically tax predatory bots that try to front-run user trades.
Or they could build a hook that cranks up trading fees automatically if a stablecoin loses its peg.
Right. So if you are allowing developers to inject infinite custom logic into the system, doesn't that completely defeat the purpose of locking everything in a secure central vault?
It is the defining double-edged sword of modern decentralized finance. You have hit on the exact tension every developer faces. Modularity versus security.
Because they want both.
Everyone wants both. Modularity, the ability to snap on custom hooks like Lego bricks, that's what drives innovation. But it absolutely explodes the attack surface.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The vault itself remains secure in how it handles the custody of the tokens, but the hooks introduce incredibly complex economic interactions.
Because the hacker isn't trying to break the vault door anymore. They are manipulating the custom rules of the cashier to trick the vault into handing over the money.
That is exactly it. And this means the job of a smart contract auditor is fundamentally changing. It is no longer just about reading code to check the math for a simple rounding error.
Like it was back in V1.
Right. Now, it's about analyzing complex, interconnected, and highly dynamic economic incentives. If a custom hook interacts strangely with a flash loan and an external pricing oracle, an attacker might find a way to drain the system without ever technically breaking a single line of code.
Wow, they just used the protocol's own complex logic against it.
Exactly.
So if the architecture is becoming this complex with singleton vaults, transient accounting, and these custom hooks injecting infinite logic, who is actually checking this code?
That's the million-dollar question.
Or the billion-dollar question. And maybe more importantly, does the broader crypto market actually care? If a protocol spends hundreds of thousands of dollars on a top-tier security audit, do they actually get rewarded for it?
Looking at the broader market data across over 1,500 different DeFi protocols spanning dozens of different sectors gives us a really clear answer. And the economics of trust in Web3 are, frankly, fascinating.
To set the baseline for you listening, when we look at the DeFi market, decentralized exchanges, yield farming, and lending protocols make up a massive 57% of the entire space.
Those are the heavy hitters.
Exactly. So across all these projects, what determines who actually gets audited?
The environment a protocol launches in dictates almost everything. Protocols build on established, highly competitive, and high-value blockchains like Ethereum or Binance Smart Chain. They are heavily audited.
Makes sense.
In those ecosystems, users expect a baseline of security. It is practically a requirement just to survive the competition and attract capital.
It's like building in Manhattan. You don't get to build a skyscraper without the building inspector signing off on every single floor.
Perfect analogy.
Yeah.
But if you look at rapidly growing, newer chains like Solana or Aurora, the likelihood of a protocol getting audited drops significantly.
So the frontier chains are basically still operating like the Wild West. People are building and deploying so fast to capture market share that they just skip the safety inspections entirely.
Exactly. It's a gold rush mentality.
I also noticed from the data that it highlights protocols using oracles are highly audited, which honestly makes complete sense.
Yes, absolutely.
Because if you aren't familiar, an oracle is a tool that fetches off-chain, real-world data like the current price of Apple stock or the real-time price of Ethereum, and feeds it into the blockchain.
And if you manipulate that data feed,
Right, you can trick the smart contract into liquidating users or mispricing assets.
oracles are the Achilles heel of many DeFi protocols. They're prime targets for manipulation. So if a protocol relies heavily on an oracle, especially market leaders like Chainlink external auditing becomes absolutely paramount.
You have to lock that down.
You do. But the most revealing part of the market data is the real-world impact of actually publishing that audit. The numbers show that when a protocol completes and publishes an audit, its total value locked, the TVL, which is the actual dollar amount of user funds deposited, increases by 37% in the first week alone.
Wait, 37% in week one?
Yes.
Just because they prove someone checked their homework. That's insane.
And the momentum just builds from there. By the end of the first quarter after the audit, the TVL jumps by an astonishing 94%.
It almost doubles.
Yep. Furthermore, the actual user base, so the number of unique on-chain wallet addresses interacting with the protocol, that grows by 58% in that same first quarter.
Wow.
The audit provides an immediate certification of trust, and that translates directly into sustainable long-term economic adoption.
Okay, but here is the twist that absolutely blew my mind when I saw it. Despite the massive jump in total value locked and the huge influx of new users, the data shows that auditing has absolutely zero significant impact on a protocol's market valuation.
None.
The market cap of their governance token barely even moves. If you're wondering why that's so crazy, think about it. Users will trust a protocol with millions of dollars of their life savings, the TVL, because of an audit. But speculators trading the token couldn't care less. How is that even possible?
It is a striking disconnect, isn't it? But it actually highlights the two completely different psychologies operating in DeFi simultaneously.
Two different groups of people.
Exactly. You have the liquidity providers, the people parking $100,000 in a smart contract just to earn a 5% yield. They care deeply about security because their principal is at risk.
They don't want to get hacked.
Right. Then you have the token speculators. Trading in decentralized financial assets is heavily momentum-based. The speculators are looking at narratives, hype cycles, Twitter sentiment, and short-term price action.
They are largely ignoring intrinsic security valuations.
Completely. They just want to know if the line on the chart is going up.
So they are treating the token like a meme, while the liquidity providers are treating the protocol like a bank.
Which is why we can apply a concept from traditional accounting literature, specifically the work of researchers like Defond and Zhang, to understand this.
Defond and Zhang, right?
Modern auditors in DeFi aren't just bug catchers. They act as holistic quality assurance gatekeepers. They signal long-term resilience, operational legitimacy, and professional management.
So while the speculative token traders might ignore the audit because it doesn't create immediate hype, the actual users see the audit as an insurance policy.
Exactly. That is why the TVL and user base grow sustainably, even if the token price doesn't immediately pop. The audit builds the foundation, the token price is just the weather.
That makes perfect sense. But it also exposes a massive vulnerability in the whole system, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Because if audits drive millions in TVL and users demand them before depositing funds, every legitimate protocol needs one.
Yes.
But there's a physical limit here. We have thousands of complex protocols launching, custom hooks being written daily, and billions of dollars moving around. But there are only a handful of elite, specialized human auditing firms.
It is a massive bottleneck.
The market demands security, but human auditors simply cannot scale fast enough to provide it.
And traditional automated tools are failing to bridge that gap. Recent research out of the AI and security space highlights just how badly the old methods are falling behind.
How bad is it?
Well, when researchers tested widely used static analysis tools programs like Mithril, which have been industry standards for years, they found these tools only achieve a 72% accuracy rate on standard vulnerabilities.
72%. They are missing almost a third of the bugs.
Yeah, it's not great.
Why are the automated tools so bad at this?
Because traditional static analysis tools are largely rule-based. They're essentially looking for hard-coded patterns, like if you see this exact line of code, flag it.
Right.
But as we discussed with Balancer's custom hooks and the complex economic incentives of modern DeFi, the vulnerabilities aren't simple syntax errors anymore.
They're contextual.
Exactly. They are nuanced logic flaws that don't fit a simple hard-coded pattern.
So how do we secure the future? Enter artificial intelligence. There is a fascinating new framework being developed called Smart Audit Flow.
It's very promising.
And what makes it different is that it uses an adaptive plan execute framework. Let me try an analogy here. Traditional static tools are like a basic spell checker in a word processor. They will catch obvious typos and syntax errors.
But they don't understand the text.
Right. But Smart Audit Flow is acting more like a managing editor who actually understands the plot of the novel. It doesn't just read the code blindly looking for typos. It reads the code to catch plot holes in the economic logic.
The workflow is what really sets this AI framework apart from just, asking ChatGPT to find a bug.
Right. It's not just a simple prompt.
No, it starts by planning a strategy based on the specific architecture of the smart contract. Yeah. It actually employs those traditional external static tools, like Sliver, to do the basic checks and map out the structural dependencies of the code.
It does the boring work first.
Exactly. Then, it uses a large language model to execute a multi-step vulnerability assessment based on that initial map.
And the results are genuinely jaw-dropping. In benchmark testing, Smart Audit Flow hit 100% accuracy on standard vulnerability tests.
Which is incredible.
But more impressively, when they unleashed it on real-world contracts, it found 13 actual CVE's common vulnerabilities and exposures that other established security tools had completely missed.
These are real, exploitable flaws in live code.
Wow.
What's equally important for the developers actually using this tool is its efficiency. A major problem with using raw LLMs for code auditing is alert fatigue.
Oh, because they just flag everything?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
If you just feed a complex smart contract into a baseline model, like DeepSeek v3, it'll spit out an average of 15.1 findings per contract.
And most of those are probably junk.
Right. Most of those are false positives, hallucinations, or just irrelevant warnings. It wastes the developer's time tracking down ghosts.
But Smart Audit Flow is different.
Yeah, because of its structured workflow, it averages only 5.5 findings per contract. It filters out the noise.
Okay, but we have to address the elephant in the room regarding AI.
The hallucinations.
Yes. We know large language models hallucinate. They confidently invent facts all the time. And if I'm trusting an AI to secure a vault holding $100 million, how can I possibly trust it not to just invent a fake vulnerability? Or worse, hallucinate that a critical backdoor is completely safe?
It is the single most important question to ask when applying AI to high-stakes security.
And the Smart Audit Flow framework addresses this through a mechanism called RAG-enhanced calibration. RAG standing for Retrieval Augmented Generation.
Right.
Let's use an analogy for RAG because this is crucial for the listener to understand. If you ask a standard AI a question, it's like a student taking a closed book test. They guess the answer from memory, and if they don't know it, sometimes they just confidently make something up. That's a hallucination.
Exactly.
RA turns it into an open book test. The AI is forced to go to the library, find the exact page in the textbook that proves its answer, and show its work before it's allowed to submit the test.
That is precisely how it functions.
Yeah.
When the AI in Smart Audit Flow identifies a potential vulnerability during its initial review, it doesn't just immediately report it to the developer.
It double checks itself.
Yes. It takes that preliminary finding and queries a curated vector database of external knowledge.
Yeah.
This database is the textbook in your analogy.
What's in the textbook?
It includes the SWC registry, which is the Smart Contract Weakness Classification. It's essentially a master catalog of known coding flaws. It also includes global CVE databases, official security guidelines, and thousands of past audit reports.
So it's referencing the historical record of almost every known hack and vulnerability.
Yes, the AI is forced to ground its claims by cross-referencing its initial finding with both the actual smart contract code and these authoritative external databases.
It essentially acts as its own harshest critic.
Right. If the preliminary finding cannot be substantiated by the external evidence and directly tied to exact lines of code, the framework just discards it.
It throws it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It only presents a finding to the human developer if it survives this rigorous open book self-calibration.
That is incredibly clever. It uses the LLM's creativity and contextual understanding to find the complex logic flaws that traditional tools miss, but uses the RAG calibration to chain that creativity to reality so it doesn't just hallucinate.
It perfectly bridges the gap between automated pattern matching and human-level contextual reasoning. It gives you the scale of a machine with the diligence of a researcher.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today. Let's bring this all together for you listening. We started by exploring the brilliant, concentrated risk of modern architecture, looking at how Balancer moved to a singleton vault to isolate their assets, while using transient accounting to save users money.
Yeah, that was a huge shift.
But we also saw how custom hooks push the boundaries of what automated market makers can do, exploding the attack surface in the process.
Then we navigated the strange economic realities of this space.
Right.
We saw how rigorous auditing acts as a vital, highly demanded signal of trust for users. It massively boosts the actual funds deposited into a protocol, even while the speculative token market completely ignores those fundamental security metrics.
The users want a safe bank. The speculators just want a volatile casino. And finally, we looked at the future of defense. With billions of dollars on the line and human auditors stretched to the absolute breaking point, AI agents utilizing adaptive workflows and open book, ARG-enhanced calibration are becoming the new standard for Web3 security.
They have to be.
Whether you are investing in these protocols, building them, or you're just fascinated by the frontier of technology, you have to realize that the battle between automated finance and automated security is the defining conflict of the modern internet.
The stakes have truly never been higher. The architecture has never been more complex, and the tools defending it have never been more sophisticated.
Which leaves us with one final, mind-bending concept to mull over. If AI frameworks like Smart Audit Flow eventually become the ultimate, flawless defenders of smart contracts, and the attackers are inevitably using similar, highly advanced AI to write their exploits, does the future of decentralized finance just become a high-speed game of machine versus machine chess, where humans are entirely sidelined from both the attack and the defense?
Now, that is a truly fascinating thought.
Something to think about next time you trust the invisible vault. Until next time, keep diving deep.